Well, thank you for coming, Sheridan. Could you be willing to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be here. So my name is Sheridan. Essentially, I am the placement manager at Praxis now. So what we do at Praxis is run a 6-month professional boot camp, and then we partner participants in the boot camp with startup companies to apprentice for 6 months. So you could kind of describe my role as being a professional matchmaker. I'm kind of that in-between person between people in the boot camp, and then I'm connecting everyone who's looking for a job, and then the businesses who are looking to fill roles. So I make those initial introductions. I kind of hype up both parties, convincing participants that the startup is really cool, you're really going to like this job, or teaching them how to see the value of doing a job that might not seem like their dream job. And then essentially convincing this startup company to hire someone who's young and inexperienced, and illustrate all the ways that they can create value for their company. And then I help people through that interview process as well. So the most involved professional matchmaker.
That's incredible. I've never actually thought about hiring as being the modern day matchmaking, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, especially at Praxis, we use the example of the dating analogy as interviewing. So if you think of it that way, interviews are dating. I'm just the matchmaker connecting people and telling you how to nail your first date, second date. So
I love it. All right. So what's one thing that you do every day that makes you more valuable?
I water the plants. No, really. So in the office, to make myself more valuable, I think it's more about finding little things to make you indispensable. And it's not just about doing tasks, but also understanding what's going on. So I think something that would set me apart from other people, and everyone has different strengths and weaknesses. I don't think that anyone's method of making themselves more valuable is inherently better or worse than someone else's. But being able to read a room and pause and just kind of process and understand everything that's going on, because then that changes your answers and it changes how you view the situation. So I would say, things that make me more valuable is just how I approach a situation. And then as far as I don't know, the little physical things go, going out of your way to do the dishes every time you leave the office in the evening, water the plants, somebody's got to make coffee, who's it going to be, kind of thing. So yeah, it's all about the little things.
It sounds like you've put a lot of thought into this. Was there a certain point where you realized that was going to make you more valuable in a work setting and started taking on new tasks?
Not really. I don't think it's something that someone had to point out to me. It's just naturally, I think that, are you familiar with the 5 love languages?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So the 5 love languages, just different ways to show appreciation. One, I really like taking ownership of a space. So I do things even in my own room, cleaning up a little bit before I go, or say if you're at the gym, putting weights away. So some ways of taking ownership of this space is, taking care of dishes, watering plants. I want to be a part of this team and this culture, and this is my space too. I spend more time in this office than I do my own home. So, I'm going to invest into it. But as far as more of the, I don't know, the intangible ways that I made myself invaluable, it's things that I wouldn't have been able to point out. I've had other people kind of speak that into me, hey, I really like how you do X, Y, and Z. I think that makes you more valuable. And then I could step back and look at it and go, oh yeah, I can see how I create value by doing that. But it's never something that I started doing intentionally. It was just kind of a strength that I played on, if that makes sense.
That makes sense, yeah. So what's you obviously had some people noticing this in your life. Have you seen a big difference between over the course of getting a new job, between when you were at the beginning and then doing these daily actions and getting a greater return?
Yes. Have I seen a difference from when I started to now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Man. Yes, but at the same time, no. I think I still feel like the same person that I was when I started working here 9 months ago, or when I found Praxis a year ago. But at the same time, I can see how I approach situations differently, or how I respond to, let's say, especially working at Praxis as advisors and in the role that I'm in, you have to realize not everyone's going to like you. And that's a hard thing to understand at first. And, not every company is going to be on board with your mission. Not every customer is going to like how we do things. And so I think just the way that I approach problems is completely different than it was 9 months ago. And that's all because of how I would stop and process things. So I think it's really important to, instead of being reactionary all the time where you're just trying to like get all the tasks done, but actually take a moment to step back and like examine everything that you're doing and understand, what you could do differently, how it creates value for someone else differently, or how it even like creates value for you. So I know this is kind of like a roundabout answer, but in a way I still feel like the same person. I don't feel like I've, achieved anything great, in the last 9 months, but as far as my understanding of how to handle situations, I think that's matured quite a bit.
Yeah. You can still see the difference. So would you have any advice for people who want to make themselves more valuable in this kind of not being reactionary, but carefully analyzing situations to see what they can do?
Yeah, well, I think in a career sense, something that's helped me a lot with that is actually just life experience. I wouldn't have been able to jump into the role that I'm in right out of high school. All of these, the ability that I have to like process situations or have conversations with people, those really developed and matured in, I think, like the 2-year span between when I graduated high school to when I started, working in a startup company. So my advice to people to kind of make themselves more valuable like that would be to get other work experiences. Like I worked at a hotel for 9 or 10 months, I think, before I came here, and working with customers like that on a daily basis, huge maturing opportunity, like getting up at 5:30 in the morning to be at work at 6 when nobody actually wants to see you at 6 in the morning kind of thing. I don't know, like do other things. I would say just get other experience. That way you have more to bring to the table when you're in different work experiences. Kind of like develop your personal portfolio of like stories or instances that you can relate to, read, like your vocabulary is going to expand the more you interact with people, the more like you consume essentially. So to make yourself more valuable, like you need to have more in you than you present on the outside, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You have to have something to draw out of yourself.
Yeah. Fantastic. If people want to find out what you're doing and kind of keep up with you, where can they find you?
I want to say my website, but I've been in a perpetual process of revamping that for several months now. So they can check me out at SheridanLintz.com, but mostly social media. I do a pretty good job at kind of documenting my daily activities, Instagram stories generally. Occasionally I'll do work updates on Facebook, but my favorite way to tell stories is kind of the behind the scenes view. So I would probably say Instagram would be the way to see what I'm up to.
Cool. Thank you so much, Sheridan.
Yeah, thank you, Emily.